He's currently the Chief Supply Chain Officer at Cummins India. And like I wrote in the chat box, he comes with a very illustrious and very formidable experience in this space, especially in the space of supply chain management. After completing his BTech as well as MTech from Ranchi University in mechanical engineering, he did his MBA from Kelly School of Business, Indiana University, one of the finest in the world, between 2012 and 2014. And very interestingly, he also has been a research scholar of operations and supply chain management in the Indian Institute of Management, COICOD, between 2020 and 2023. And that's a very interesting, the role that I'm sure he must have taken. And if you look at his professional career, he began his career as an engineer with the telco, the Tata Motors. Then he joined Cummins Engine Company as quality systems manager, where he worked for less than a year. Then eventually joined Tata Cummins Limited as a senior general manager operations, where he worked for 15 years. And after that, he was with Tata Cummins Limited again as a director of manufacturing and supply chain for engine business. And after that, he was the president of manufacturing and SCM for Grieve Scotland Limited for 2 years and 1 month. Then he was a chief supply chain officer at Schindler India Private Limited for 2 years and 10 months. And since March 2022, and currently he is a chief supply chain officer at Cummins India. And he has received a lot of awards and certification as well in this area. And like he said, today's topic is going to be on digital supply chains. And we couldn't have a better person than him to take us through the evolving space of the digital supply chains. Thank you so much, Shubhankar, for joining us on Saturday evening. And it's absolute great pleasure to have you for this topic. Over to you, Shubhankar.
Thank you, Dr. Nagendra, for the nice introduction. And welcome everybody on board. And thanks, TimesPro, for organizing this kind of sessions. This is very interesting. And while it is on a Saturday afternoon, it's good to connect with the entire supply chain fraternity. And let's discuss a little bit about what are the trends in supply chain and how are we looking at transforming the overall supply chain. And when we talk of supply chain, we are talking of integrated supply chain, which includes the entire value chain, starting from supply deliveries, supply manufacturing, operations, manufacturing engineering, then distribution, networking, warehousing, everything. So we're looking at a broad domain of supply chain. Now, all of you are aware, and it's nothing new, that supply chain was not much in the limelight prior to the COVID period. So COVID changed the paradigm of supply chain. And because the COVID brought to us unsurmountable level of, I would say, constraints, which were not imagined earlier. And as constraints come in front of you, you will all realize that the weakest link starts crumbling. And supply chain being extremely extended across the value chain, we had the maximum failure started coming from the supply chain side, be it in supply of medical equipments, be it supply of your sanitizers, be it in supply of masks, medicines, vaccines. So that's all part of the supply chain. However, this also made us learn that we should be agile enough to meet or beat these constraints. And that's where we started thinking, post-COVID, we have started looking at supply chain very differently, which was not the case earlier, where supply chain research has always been there. But the way we are looking at supply chain, I call it reimagining supply chain, is very different. And fortunately, in the same period, we also see strong tailwinds with regards to the digitization landscape. Okay, when I talk of digitization, we talk of the latest is now AI. Then we also have Industry 4. We have supply chain digitization, and that is something I guess it's really been helping supply chain and improving its agility and resilience. So in this session today, we would like to see how is the landscape, the global landscape of supply chain. We analyze the global landscape. We look at so I'll start sharing my screen. Is it visible? Can anybody confirm?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Maybe we can put in the view mode. Yeah, absolutely. Now it's good. Yeah.
Okay, so so based on this background, what we will try to cover today are a broad landscape of how are the current supply chain challenges, okay? What are the supply chain mega trends? How are we looking at reimagining supply chain, okay? Then what's the way forward into the future, and how is digitalization or Industry 4 enabling success, okay, enabling supply chain. And lastly, but not the least, we will talk of a little bit of use cases, what we are using in Cummins. So in Cummins, we embraced the journey of supply chain digitalization and Industry 4 about 2 years back. And we have made some decent progress, which we'd like to share with you. So starting with, what are the main challenges? So as you have all seen that the world is very different now. And post-COVID, we thought, okay, COVID was the biggest constraint. And post-COVID, I guess things will come back to normalcy, but unfortunately, that has not happened. Post-COVID, we had the Suez Canal issue, we had container availability issue, but those were smaller. The bigger issues are come 20th, 22nd of February last year, we saw the Ukraine war. And this year, and now almost 2 years have gone on the Ukraine war. And on 6th of October, we saw the conflict in Israel between Hamas and Israel. So these are going on. And so the constraints looks like never ending. And we thought that's going to end quickly. But that has escalated into another form of constraint, which is the Red Sea crisis. So can you see that how things are evolving? So we had COVID, we had the Suez Canal issue, we had the container availability issue, but post that, now we have the Ukraine war, and that's still continuing, unfortunately. We have the war in Gaza, and now we have the Red Sea crisis. And on top of it, I guess one which is, omnipresent is the threat because of the climate change. And I'll give some examples of how climate change is impacting our supply chain. So if I have to now classify all the challenges that we have, just let me hide this floating bar. So if I have to classify all the supply chain challenges, we can classify them into 4 buckets, okay? The number one is the operational challenges. Operational challenges have always been there. It is not that they are new. So we always had issues of forecasting accuracy. We always had issues of logistics continuity, part shortages, okay, quality issues. Talent has always been a challenge, inventory management. These are mostly challenges which has always been there. But what has further changed are the financial challenges. Now, for example, in the Red Sea crisis, the transportation costs have gone up because now the ships are leaving east coast of US or from Europe. They're not able to take the Suez Canal, that they're traveling via the Cape of Good Hope. That is increasing the transportation costs, increasing the freight rates, making it more difficult for container availability, so on and so forth. And this is the reason why you see the overall the financials, way we imagine the commercials, the way we imagine the financial costs for doing business, they're changing. For example, there are trade tariffs. What used to cost X to import from China to US today costs X plus 1.25. It's no more X, it's 1.25 of X because there is an import tariff. Okay? And then we also saw a significant amount of inflation happening during the COVID period. And we thought it will settle down. Unfortunately, the inflation has not settled down. So, for example, a cold rolled steel used to sell at 52,000 rupees a ton. During COVID, it went up to almost 80,000 rupees. And then we thought it will settle down. Unfortunately, that 52,000 rupees is still hovering at 68 to 70,000 rupees a ton. So it has not gone back to what was normal. So all this put significant burden on the overall the way we do business. And then we have strategic challenges. And strategic challenges, let me a little bit explain, are different. The strategic challenges are like how well are you capable, or how well are you poised to embrace new technologies? Like, for example, there are conventional ways of running business, but there are ways of enabling the business with digitization, which we'll talk in more detail. Question is the organization ready to embrace those digitization technologies? Then we have obsolescence of products. You all know there is a significant crisis which is going, a significant mega trend that is going on in the automotive industry, where cars driven by fossil fuel will now migrate to EVs. Then the question is, for suppliers who are producing parts for fossil fuel cars, what will they do when the EV migration is almost done? That's a challenge for products. And then there are challenges for obsolescence of competitive differentiation. Like for example, that's another example of EV. What was a competitive differentiation for Tesla is slowly eroding away because BYD from China is catching up so fast, and so are other players from China. So, what was the advantages for Tesla maybe 3 years back is may not be today, and tomorrow maybe there are many more players who will come. So there are many strategic challenges which has emerged because there is a technology transition which is also happening. We also need to understand that today also we are in a cusp of a technology transition where we are moving from fossil fuels to more greener technologies. Uh, so that also brings a big change in the overall automotive landscape, which is one of the largest industry. But green is not only posing challenge to the automotive industry, it is also posing challenge to industries which were using fossil fuel. For example, steel plants. Steel plants consume significant portion of coal is being used in steel plant. Now there is a tax which is called CBAM, which European Union is going to impose on all steels which are going to be imported into the Europe EU. So that's another a different strategic challenge. And then there are fourth kind of challenges, which is mostly connected to the compliance. Now, when I talk of compliance, was compliance not a challenge earlier? Compliance was a challenge also earlier, but with digitization and with IoT and with internet, if you flout the league compliance norms, you can get into prominence for wrong reasons very quickly. Okay, so it's much easily monitored, easily tracked because of your digitalization trends. And thanks to our government of India, the tracking capability, because of the compliance capability and compliance monitoring capability because of digitalization has enhanced significantly. So today, if you're importing good from outside of India, and if your HSN codes don't match, very quickly the customs officer can find out that HSN codes are not matching, or either you're paying excess or lower taxes. So they can be identified very easily, which was a little difficult earlier. So coming back to the summary is that the challenges which used to be there pre-COVID, post-COVID, while the COVID challenge has gone away, there are newer forms of challenges in terms of geopolitical risk, in the forms of trade tariffs, in form of product obsolescence, in terms of a complete migration from fossil fuel to renewable energy, and also a high level of visibility on account of digitalization and Internet of Things and Internet. Okay, all this pose significant amount of supply chain challenges. The challenges have gone up. Now, how do we embrace this situation? So if I look at the challenge continuing in challenges, so pandemic created a global supply chain disruption. So trade disruptions, geopolitical risks, climate change, inflationary pressures, administrative burden, leading to stress on working capitals, raw material and child part availability, increase in tariffs, restricted movement of people and material, accelerated adoption of technology and automation. This is all about constraints and disruptions. So what does the industry do? Okay, what does the industry do is that what we can do, and that's what we are doing in industry, is that how early we can identify the risks. So supply chain ERM, or supply chain risk management, okay, or enterprise risk management, has taken a predominance in our overall boardroom discussion. Okay. The other piece is that how agile are you able to mitigate the risks? And that's what we will talk more today, that how does agility and resilience help us mitigate the risks, and how agility and resilience can be built up through digitization. Then the fourth challenge definitely is the sustainable multi-layer supply chains. So what used to be within the four walls of the factories or organizations has got extended way beyond the four walls. Okay, we will talk more in details of that. And how to minimize the risk of unforeseen risks. So risk will always be there. Okay, you would have never predicted that ships will stop coming through Suez Canal. We would not have dreamt that of that, but that's happening. But how do you minimize the impact? How can you plan better? Okay, that's all what we are going to talk. Then before we move to the solutioning mode, we will talk a little bit about the mega trends. So I spoke to you just about the geopolitical tensions. So nations are skeptical about cooperations. Essentially, material availability is going to be a challenge. 6 out of 10 global organizations consider geopolitical instability as a supply chain risk in next 3 years, and you can see that's happening. Okay, and with that, what is also happening is that people are looking at optimizing their manufacturing footprint. What used to be economies of scale has moved a change to economies of skill. We'll talk a little bit of more on that. But what is happening is that with great resignation, 1 in 5 employees are tending to switch jobs. Okay, there are rapid increase in energy costs. Okay, there is a need to evaluate manufacturing footprints, and hence exploring friendshoring or nearshoring is something which is not nice to do. We need to execute those. So 7 out of 10 companies are looking at shifting manufacturing operations into the rest of Asia. And with all this geopolitical issues and manufacturing footprint optimization and trade embargo, the biggest hit comes to the availability of raw material. So, okay, so availability of material, which are very niche, for example, chipsets, lithium, cobalt, okay, and even specialized steels, even cables, that's all getting into a constraint mode. For example, today, if you want to purchase specialized cables, you know what is the lead time? The lead times are 9 months. Cables, I mean, that's just talking of cables. And what is the minimum order quantity? The minimum order quantity, if you want to import a high-end cable, is 4 kilometers. So you will have to really plan way in advance. So 70%, 71% of global companies highlight raw material costs as their number one supply chain threat. And we have seen that 21, 22, and even 23, the material cost on account of material inflation has been significant. Our profitability of most organizations took a significant hit. It has stabilized, but it has not gone back to the pre-COVID era. And continuing with mega trends, we also see there is a technological investment that is gaining focus. And if we don't invest now, and if our industries do not embrace the technology now, we will be lagging behind. Okay, 6 out of 10 industries plan to invest in digital technology. And what are those? We'll talk in more detail, which eventually actually helps you, one liner, helps you create end-to-end visibility in supply chain and manufacturing. Okay. There is a fifth mega trend, which is your cybersecurity, which is also very, very significant. We have a cybersecurity cell and we publish a weekly report, and we see every month there are attempts to hack our systems. Okay, so putting in ransomware and then asking for a ransom is very common. Okay, Hence, and as you connect more and more of your equipments through IoT to the cloud, you are more susceptible to the cybersecurity risks. Half of global organizations consider cybersecurity as an important supply chain challenge. And last but not the least, the mega trend is sustainability and ESG compliance. Okay, ESG compliance is no more a nice to do; it is a necessity, and that is a necessity out of our own value system. We need to protect the Mother Earth. We need to ensure that we we abide by all the norms of going green. India, for example, has signed up to go green by 2070. We, as an organization, we are looking at Planet 2050 by when we will have be carbon neutral. So most organizations have taken such pledges, and there are multiple steps towards that. Having said so, there are also regulatory requirements which are coming up to support sustainability, which is good. For example, the SEBI has come up with a norm called BRSR, whereby you are required to file your ESG plan. What is your ESG roadmap? So, which is a good actually for the country. Okay, so thus 53% of organizations plan to increase their focus on sustainability sourcing. Okay, we will talk more about that. Now, having said all this, so we talked about constraints, we talked about risks, we spoke about the mega trends. Now, now it looks like the world is very complicated. Okay, world is the risks have gone up, they are unpredictable. Okay, the constraints are more than what used to be, and that's a fact. Now, in this landscape, how do we navigate? So let's look at how do we navigate in this landscape. And this is where typically we would like to design our supply chain. This is more of a design thinking concept. Okay, we would like to design our supply chain which is resilient and de-risks. Okay, where we build resiliency to overcome disruptions and crises. Okay, we continuously scan and mitigate risks. That's an ongoing process. Okay, and with resilience, only resilience may not be enough. So resilience is the ability to absorb shocks, okay, and bounce back and come back. Whereas the velocity with which you can navigate through this constraint is your agility. So build agility to combine velocity and adaptability with stability and efficiency. How agile are you is reflected in the way you are able to maneuver through these constraints. So constraints will come, obstacles will come, risks will be there, okay, headwinds will be there. But how well are you able to navigate through those constraints and risks is the measure of your resilience and agility. And with resilience and agility, that is more of a survival mode. We also need to grow. So it's not surviving is enough. We need to grow, and we need to grow profitably. And when we talk of growing profitably, we talk of commercial innovation and cost transformation. And we will talk more about that. And last but not the least, I will keep on repeating that the biggest megatrend is sustainability. A sustainable transformation will be key. And this will be a requirement for all industries because it's a universal humanitarian challenge. Okay, sustainability has to be embedded in the supply chain operations across the value chain, and we will talk more about that. But that's the major theme out here. So how do we? So we talked about resilience, we talked about agility, we talked about commercial innovation, cost transformation, we talked about sustainability. But how do you deliver that? What are your levers? So we'll talk about 5 different levers now. Okay. So one is the first lever is how to create a resilient and de-risked supply chain. And these are the multiple levers that can be used to create resiliency. The first is the portfolio excellence. We know that in supply chain, more complex you make the portfolio, okay, it becomes difficult to deliver. So if you have, for example, if you're manufacturing cars and if you have only 5 variants of cars, it is easier to produce. But if you have 50 variants of cars, which may be also a possibility, it becomes more complex. The supply chain becomes more complex. And hence, reducing complexity is one of the necessity for our simplifying the operations. Now, complexity reduction can also happen uh, at various levels. What we can do is the base product can remain same, but we can go for delayed differentiation. Okay, so if you look at the entire range of, let's say, cars from Volkswagen and Audi, you will see there will be many parts which are common, and same with Toyota. But the outer shell and the models look very different. So that's typically the delayed differentiation. Okay, and we can look at component commonality, which I spoke. The other piece is that customer orientation. Uh, we need to use technology to include customer preferences in the product design. So no more the external world is going to accept a product the way you want to design, you want to offer it. We need to understand, are we able to embed the customer expectations inside the product? On the demand side, the other piece is the financial viability, is that as we create resilience and sustainability, there is a cost attached to it. So resilience means enough capacities, resilience, sustainability means green operations. There is a cost attached to it. But is that cost, how do we mitigate that cost impact, is something which we need to learn. And in the long term, resiliency and sustainability actually are cost neutral. And in fact, they're cost positive. Okay, means they help in mitigating the costs. And last but not the least, with such a volatile external market, what is a go-to market strategy? We need to have omni-channel approach. So we don't not only look at the product proliferation, we also look at improving our geographical reach, improving our digital reach. So our omni-channel presence is required for the go-to market strategy. So that was all on the demand side. And then we move little bit on the supply side strategies. So when we look at supply chain strategy, there we are looking at logistics flexibility, we are looking at manufacturing adaptability, we are looking at supplier diversity and advanced planning. And there are various topics out there. I'm not going to spend time on reading out each one of them. So that was the lever number one. That was your resilience and de-risk supply chain. Lever two is how do you build agility? Okay. So these are the various ways of building agility: is rapid tailoring of manufacturing, agile manufacturing planning, digital integrated business planning, transport management system, logistics coordination, building demand sensing, inventory analytics. These are various ways you improve agility. But the underlying statement for agility is the ability to create an end-to-end visibility. If you improve visibility in logistics, if you improve visibility in manufacturing, if you improve visibility into the entire value chain, you are agile. And then we speak a little bit about cost, innovation, and cost transformation. So resilience and agility is required to sustain, is required to survive. It requires to continue operations, but that's not going to make you grow. And hence, there's a need for commercial innovation and cost transformation. We need to use digitization. We need to improve operational efficiency through Industry 4. We need to automate supply chain processes. And show you some examples of how we are doing it. Use of RPAs, use of transport management system, control tower. And eventually we want to transform the organization into a KPI-driven organization. Key performance indicators should drive behaviors. Key performance indicators should drive activities and initiatives and drive efficiency. And last but not the least, for all this to happen, we need to embrace change management for better adoption of digitization and supply chain in manufacturing and supply chain. So that's the cost innovation and cost transformation, basically, because talking about how industry should grow. And then we talk about a little bit of a sustainability. And hence, as I spoke to you, sustainability is across the value chain. We cannot have very sustainable operations within the four walls of the industry, whereas we don't know what is happening in our extended supply chain. Okay, scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, all are equally important. And hence, you need to create a sustainability roadmap, a vision, and a roadmap. We also need to deploy sustainability monitoring tools and build partnership across the value chain to promote circular economy. We alone cannot do it. For example, if I dispose tons of wood as packaging material, I need to partner with somebody who is going to recycle those woods and again make boxes out of those and send it back to the industry. That's circular economy. And definitely, to promote sustainability, we need to hire talent who has focused towards sustainability. And for all this to happen, we need to look at the work design. So we are talking of agility, we are talking of resilience, we are talking of efficiency improvement, we are talking of digitization. But who's going to do this? So we need talent. And as I told you earlier, the focus towards talent is significant today, and it is the most difficult challenge today. Attracting and retaining talent who are skilled, who are capable of embracing the next gen technology with regards to digitalization, manufacturing technologies, supply chain analytics, okay, is a key. It's not easy to get those talent. It is not easy to upscale those people. It's not easy to retain those talent. And hence, what we need to look at a different way of designing the workspace. Okay, employee value proposition needs to change from financial attractiveness to building awareness, motivation, and commitment for employees. Okay, we need to the supply chain leaders need to embrace the diversity, equity, and inclusion to ensure that it's not only we are attracting talent, we are able to retain them, we are able to upskill them, and they are able to perform the tasks to the highest level of efficiency. So these are the five levers we spoke about: resilience, agility, cost efficiency, sustainability, and human-centric workspace. So these are the levers which are the to be used, which we can use to transform or reimagine supply chain to which is capable of embracing the challenges. Now we will little bit talk how do we do that? What are the technologies? Okay, so it's not so today's focus is the digital supply chain, and this is the broad landscape. 50% of supply chain organizations will invest in applications that support artificial intelligence. And we are already using in different forms. Okay. AI-enabled no-touch to low-touch planning can improve margins by 1 to 3%. And we have seen that. If you improve forecasting capabilities, if you improve inventory analytics, if I improve manufacturing efficiency using AI, we can add to the bottom line to the extent of 1 to 3%. Okay. End-to-end visibility I spoke, and that's very much of a necessity today. 43% of organizations have limited or no visibility of Tier 1 supply performance. Leave aside Tier 2 and Tier 3. So it's a big task out there. We need to, and this is not required, this is not only required for improving your agility or your continued operation, it is also required for ESG. Tomorrow, SEBI or BRSR requirement will come and ask you, what is the pollution happening on with your Tier 3 suppliers? Okay. ESG and scope 3, as I spoke, only less than 10% of emission actually happens within the four walls of manufacturing. 90% of emission happens outside. So that is scope 3, either with the customer or with the suppliers. And we need to improve that, and we need to have visibility to improve that. And last but not the least, there's a mega trend on the EVs. What we are looking at almost, you have seen Mr. Biden's announcement that by 2030, US needs to have 2/3 of their vehicle as EVs. Even in India today, our adoption is only 2%. But we are looking at a fast adoption and maybe at least 15% in next 3 years and maybe 34% by 2030. So what I'm saying is that the entire technology landscape is changing. Okay, so these are the technologies which we are currently using. So if you look at any modern industry, these are the platforms which are using, and we are also using in Cummins. We are using most of them. SaaS, cloud computing, and SaaS applications we are using. I'll show you some used cases out here. Okay, AI/ML we're definitely using. That is going to help your predictive maintenance. That's going to help your forecast accuracy. IoT, more you connect your equipments, more feedback that you get on real time. All your transactions through blockchain is the safest mode of communicating across the value chain. Control towers are required for extended value chains for end-to-end visibility and supply chain automation. Robotic process automation will show you some use cases. That's the right thing to do to eliminate manual tasks, manual work. Okay, and last but not the least, MAIO we are using to monitor inventory across the value chain. With this, I'll move to a little bit of used cases. We will talk a little bit of used cases, and then I will close and take questions. So this is something which is the transport management system. We started in one of the factories, and now we are extending to 4 factories. Eventually, we want to extend to entire Cummins India. And this is what happens is that this is a app. What it does is that it consolidates freight. So freight consolidation, freight tendering, freight visibility, freight audit, and freight reports. And what it does is from part load consignments, it transforms into full truckload consignments. So PTL to FTL. With this, now we have implemented this almost 2 years now. We see 8% reduction in logistics cost, 33% reduction in logistics paperwork, and 100% tracking of secondary and vendor consignments. Okay, so this is how technology can help you improve your logistics efficiency. We could not have dreamt about it 10 years back or even 5 years back. Okay, and then there's one more example of how technology has helped us. We use AI-enabled forecasting tool called TimesPro for our distribution network, for our aftermarket planning. And where we were in less than 37% forecast accuracy, we have moved the forecast accuracy to greater than 52%. Actually, as I speak, it is more than 60% now. And with this, what has happened is that our inventories have gone down, our fulfillment rates have improved, and back orders have gone down. So this is a simple example, a very right example of how a statistical tool which has AI/ML capability can improve your fulfillment, can improve your efficiency, can bring down your inventories, can reduce your back orders. And then I will talk a little bit about Industry 4, what we are doing. And we are connecting almost 300 machines across our manufacturing base. And we use a platform called Ignition. What is Ignition doing is that, and this is irrespective of the machine. They are old, new, every equipment can be connected. So we are putting IOs on the machines, connecting the machines into the cloud. And from there, we are capturing the data. What you see on the left-hand side bottom is actually your, let me take the pointer out here. What you see the dashboard out here, that's a real-time dashboard. Sitting at my place, or even if I'm traveling, I can track a machine deep inside of manufacturing operations away 1,000 kilometers, okay? I can track it on a real-time basis, whether the equipments are running, they're in the right health, whether the motors are running hot or cold, is there excessive vibration? So with this, what is happening is that our operating overall equipment efficiency, which is a measure of your operational health and efficiency, has improved from 65% to 85%. And we are also using condition-based monitoring to track those critical equipments, which if otherwise goes under breakdown, will cause significant hindrance to our operation. That's another use case of IoT. So OE and CBM, there are 2 use cases of IoT implementation. One sec. And the other example is use of RPS. So we implemented about 20 RPS across our different factories. And with that, what is happening, this is robotic process automation. We have been able to save 55,000 man-hour worth of labor, okay? So that is one more example of how you can use digital tools to do away with manual work and get into more automated work, okay? So we're having said so, now we look at, let's summarize and conclude. So if I look at on the real-time basis to run your current state of operation, what we need is a good, capable in your business planning, which is also called the IBP or synchronous business planning, which starts from the product development to the delivery cycle. We need reliable supplier and logistics, and supply chain risk management and logistics optimization is a key thing. We also need sustainable operation. And when we talk of sustainable operation, we need capable manufacturing and we need sustainability across the value chain. Most important is the workforce optimization, workforce flexibility, and people skill enhancement. Or who will do all these tasks? We need good amount of analytical capability and digital skill sets for embracing this technology. And last but not the least, we need connected services, connected value chain. So supply chain digitization and Industry 4 actually is going to help us improve our agility and resilience. So last but not the least, before I close, so this is what we are looking at, supply chain of future, reimagining supply chain. And when we talk of reimagining a supply chain, we talk of economies of scale, moving from economies of scale to economies of skill, moving from Kanban to strategic sourcing, moving from global supply base to globally connected value chains, from regulatory compliance to innovative sustainability, how you can use sustainability to improve your operations, improve efficiency. Okay, supply chain resilience, we spoke, and there are certain offshoots of supply chain resilience are in the terms of your nearshoring and friendshoring. Okay, build connected enterprises. We spoke about IoT and your end-to-end digitization, how we can look at and create improved visibility across the value chain. And then improving resiliency and agility, what we spoke, and there are multiple tools like your control tower, E2E visibility, and then transport management system we spoke, and definitely investing in green technologies. Okay. With this, I will close the, so this is, I'll open up for Q&A and stop sharing now. So maybe we have just 10 minutes to go, and it's good to have a good discussion and take some questions.
Thank you, Shubhankar. We have quite a few questions. Let's see how many we can field. There are two questions from Mr. Manoj. His first question is how digital supply chain contribute to net zero objective, and his second question is how latest forecasting techniques such as deep learning, ARIMA, SARIMA are effective to counter forecasting challenges. Thank you, Manoj.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so the first question is how digitization can help improve our sustainability. Definitely it can. So as I told you, we can improve our energy footprint. Okay, so for example, I'll give you a very simple example. You operate, most of our factories are air conditioned, okay? But how optimized you can run your air conditioning, because air conditioning costs not only cost, it causes significant CO2 impact. You're consuming electricity to a great extent. What we do is that we have a closed loop, AI-enabled, digitally connected building management system, which actually looks at every pocket of the factory and optimizes the air conditioning. Okay, this is just one example. And likewise, our water consumption, our power consumption, freight is one example I gave you. Like we optimized vehicular load by deploying the transport management system, and that reduced our improved efficiency by 8%, and 8% improvement in efficiency means you're using less amount of trucks, and hence you have lesser carbon footprint. Okay. So that was the first question. I hope I answered. And what was the second one, Dr. Chaudhary?
Second one is related to how latest forecasting techniques such as deep learning, ARIMA, SARIMA are effective to counter forecasting challenges.
Yeah. So for example, I'll give you what I spoke is that we used a AI-enabled tool platform called your TimesPro. What it does is that it creates multiple models. So it uses exponential smoothing, it uses deterministic models, and then offers what is the best solution. That's the first level of use of AI. But then there's the next level which we are currently working is, so deterministic models can improve your forecasting capability maximum up to 60%. But if you want to really improve the forecasting accuracy up to 85 plus, then we need to go to demand sensing. And that is where your AI is going to come into picture. So the data from point of sale, we need to feed into the system and use AI-enabled tools which are available, and we are also doing it, which improves your accuracy from 60% to 85%. Okay, that's what is going to improve your forecast accuracy, improve your inventory positioning, improve your visibility. That's another example. And that's happening actually.
Thank you, Shubhankar. This is a question from Mr. Christopher, and his question is: Good evening. Thanks for an insight on supply chain. How would supply chain help in BFSI? What are the challenges and way forward while the BFSI is going through enormous digital shift? Thank you, Christopher.
Okay, so see, what is happening is overall towards your sustainability, there is a significant effort which is required towards sustainability. And more we use our digital tools, more we are greener, more we reduce our carbon footprint, it helps us in the overall sustainability. Okay, and that's what we are looking at, and that's what every industry is doing at. 10 years back, driving sustainability would have been more humongous, but today with digitalization, we can do it much better.
And this is I think, a little clarification question from Rupali Parswani. Her question is: What is the meaning of condition-based monitoring?
Okay, let me give a very simple example. You have aircrafts which are flying from maybe Mumbai to New York. Okay, uh, the aircraft is not having a liberty to have a snag while it is high in the air at 40,000 feet. Okay, what you do is a real-time monitoring of the turbines and say, hey, when it lands, it needs maintenance. Okay, you don't wait for it to fail while it is on air. You preempt the failure mode. You take a shutdown, okay, whereby actually in turn you improve the utilization. So what we do is we monitor critical equipments through IoT sensors. We track vibrations, we track temperatures, we track current, okay, how much of voltage it is, how much of current it is drawing, and we preempt the failure modes. And as we preempt the failure modes, we don't have unwanted stoppages. And it can be other way around. We can also say, oh, it was supposed to go for a preventive maintenance this weekend. It need not go for preventive maintenance. You can run it for one more week. It optimizes your maintenance cost. Hope I answered. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a question from Mr. Kamal Karma, and his question is: Thanks for the session. Drivers are the backbone of the supply chain. However, the USA is facing driver shortages issues. This issue will come in the Indian market in future. What are your views for this issue and resolution? Thank you, Kamal.
See, what is US facing is post-COVID. Okay, folks, drivers are no longer willing to drive trucks. Okay, but that's a US economy little different than what we have. We also have a similar situation because today what we have are long haul trucks. We also have a shortage of drivers for long haul trucks. So what we are doing is, since we are partners to Tata Motors and other commercial vehicle manufacturers, we are improving the driving conditions. Okay, quite a few significant portion of our vehicles are today air conditioned. 10 years back, you would have hardly imagined a truck which is in air conditioned cabin. We are tracking we also have tracking capability where we can really watch and monitor whether the driver is sleeping or not, or they are overstretched. Okay, there are vision tools available today which are mounted, and this is real time. We monitor the trucks. We are monitoring trucks to see whether the drivers are fatigued or not. Okay, so overall, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to improve the working conditions for our drivers who are also partners to us, our value chain. Very right question. But eventually, if you talk about if you're hinting towards autonomous driving, I guess that's a long way to go for India.
And this is a question from Mr. Krishnamurti Parameshwar, and his question is: Sir, thank you for the session. How QCO or stroke hyphen BIS play a role in supply chain disruption?
If you TCO, when you say you're talking of total cost of ownership?
No, he's talking about QCO hyphen BIS.
Can you please explain what do you exactly mean?
Krishnamurti, if you can kindly update your question with this, it'll be good. And in the meanwhile, let me move on to the next question while Krishnamurti puts up that. Okay, his question, this is, I think there are two questions related to same thing, and that is from Girish as well as Mr. Manoj. How is blockchain leveraged in supply chain? Please share any real examples.
See, our transactions, we are moving very rapidly. We are moving our transactions to blockchain. Okay, what used to be our transactions through EDI and other forms of data transmission, blockchain is turning out to be very safe, secure, and reliable. So we are moving majority of our transactions into blockchain. So blockchain is a secure way of transacting. Blockchain is a unique way of transacting. Blockchain prevents any kind of manipulation of the data. And eventually, it will help supply chain uh, establishing a data transmission which cannot be tampered with, because you create the trends and the threads which cannot be manipulated in blockchain. Okay, so that's that's a very short answer of how blockchain can enable us improve our data accuracy and data sanctity.
And this is from Nidhi Jaiswal. Her thing is, thank you, Mr. Subhankar, for such informative insight on industry focused upon SEM and extending to futuristic paradigm. My question is how a veteran who is typically accustomed to traditional way of dealing with logistics and supply operations would place themselves in the industry across the world. Though we are dealing with a platform like GEM, but again, that is mainly pertaining to third-party process control. Thank you, Nidhi.
See this. See, that's a challenge. The challenge is entire part of the value chain needs to embrace digitalization, and we all are learning, and there's no end to learning, I would say. But digitization is no more an option across the value chain. We need to adapt it. The other myth which we need to also answer is it doesn't cost much. Okay, if you say that digitization is very expensive for MSMEs and all, how will they implement? We have frugal solutions available. For example, the IoT connections which we are connecting our machines today costs us less than 50,000 rupees per machine. We have brought down the cost to that extent. So what I'm trying to answer is that digitization has to be there irrespective of the age of the industry. And we have machines which are 60 years old. We are still connecting them. Across the value chain for different tire suppliers to the extent which you can adapt. But that's the trend. That is something you need to be on the bus. You need to board the bus and get going.
This is from Mr. Navneet Singh, Shubhankar. His question is, thanks for valuable thought in SEM. How SEM can help manufacturing company in ceramic industry? Thank you, Navneet.
I'm not from ceramic industry, but I can also say all this technology are your manufacturing agnostic. For example, use of CBM, you definitely will have critical machines. Use CBM to predict failure modes. Use IoT to predict operational equipment efficiency, which is the OEE improvement. Use transport management system to monitor the trucks, which takes out your finished goods to the customers. So it is industry agnostic. Okay?
Yeah.
So everywhere, be it a steel plant, be it automotive, be it pharmaceutical, digitalization and IoT and all, they're industry agnostic. We can use all the same technologies across board.
And this is a question from Mr. Bhupadraju Narsimharaju. His question is how to reduce cost when the products are manufactured by a third party with lower MOQs. Thank you, Bhupadraju.
I guess what you have already answered. If your products are manufactured by third parties with lower MOQs, it improves your cost base. Okay. And the question is, how do we share the profit between you and the third parties? Okay. We need to have a sustainable supply chain. We also don't want your third parties to die and eventually the value chain collapses. What we can do is the optimal cost sharing between the entire value chain. Okay.
And second last question for today evening, with your permission, Shubhankar, is one from Vikas Maurya. His question, is there anything like decentralization with regard to supply chain? Thank you, Vikas.
As I spoke, I talked about one topic is from a global supplier to a globally connected value chain. Okay, what is happening is that the customer preferences are changing, and customer preferences are changing, and hence what you need a product very tailored to the market. So manufacturing closer to the point of use is the best thing to happen. May not be possible, but that's something which should happen, and that's the trend which will be there across board. Okay, it's not that you import from a long distant country and try to use it at the point of use. Rather, get it closer to the manufacturing, closer to the point of use, maybe use delayed differentiation and be capable of catering to the customer expectation with infinite variability.
Last question for today evening, Shubhankar, is from Sanjay Solanki. His question is: any organization that wants to grow needs both skill and technology. What advice would you give to those on a tight budget, as well as what affordable solutions are available for the building material industries? Thank you, Sanjay.
Uh, See, again, I told you, I will not specifically talk about building material industry because these technologies are industry agnostic. But you have very right question. If I talk of all this digitization and industry, Internet of Things, Industry 4, AI, supply chain digitization, it needs upskilling of your workforce. It's not only upskilling of the workforce, it is also the change in mindset and change in mindset of the top leadership. The leadership should be able to embrace technology or even foresee that there is no choice but to embrace digitalization. It starts from the leadership and then cascades down. But then we also should be able to help employees upskill their capabilities. And for example, uh, today there are low cost solutions available. You can get your people trained, sorry, in AI/ML. Okay, there are a lot of free courses available today in Microsoft and Google and Udemy where you can train your people in AI, in digitization, in Industry 4. Okay, use those because not training them, skilling them is not a choice. Uh, Spending huge amount of money for MSME and SMEs is not a choice. Have frugal solutions, get people trained, and that's the best thing to happen.
Thank you so much, Shubhankar. I think we already overshot some time. That's absolutely pleasure and happy and honor to have you, especially on a Saturday evening. And it's an
Thank
absolute
you all.
great
I
time to
hope
us.
you all enjoyed the session.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if there are any questions, do write back to me. Okay. I'll put my email ID on my chat box. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.